Hey guys, this is John Watts. Thanks for watching this video. We're going to talk about a debt validation letter, sometimes called a debt verification letter. This comes from Section 1692G of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA. Now, I call this a request for information letter because I think that's a more descriptive term. And there's so much misinformation about, well, what's a validation letter? What's a verification letter? It's really just asking the debt collector for information. Maybe literal information, maybe documents, but you're requesting something back from the debt collector. So let me talk to you about a couple of ways to think about this. Under 1692G, within 5 days of the first communication that the debt collector has with you, they're supposed to send you this letter that gives you a little bit of information and tells you you can dispute this within 30 days. If you do that and you do it in writing, they'll send you information about the original creditor, about a judgment. And so within this 30-day period, if you send a debt validation letter, or what I call a request for information letter, then that debt collector has a couple choices. They can do nothing. They don't collect and they don't respond to you. Or they can respond to you and then start collecting again. Or they can just get rid of the account. Okay. Now, if you're outside this 30-day window, maybe you got a letter from them a year ago and now you want to do something, you can still ask them for information. They technically don't have to respond. Okay. They can continue to collect without responding to you. Psychologically, very, very hard for them to do. And let me give you an example. So we had a lady that received a letter from a debt collection lawyer threatening to sue her, and this was beyond the statute of limitations. And so she says, hey, I think you're beyond the statute of limitations. Why do you say it's okay to sue me? Do you agree it's beyond the statute of limitation? Now, let's take a couple of examples. Say it's within that 30-day time period. Well, that lawyer's got to respond to her or take the chance that this is not a proper request for information. And I will say this, the courts are pretty weak on what the debt collector has to respond to, okay? But the more specific you are and you explain why you need something, the greater the obligation is on that debt collector. So for this consumer to say, hey, what are you doing threatening to sue me? This is way beyond the statute of limitation. Here's when I defaulted. Here's the time period. You're beyond that. What are you doing? Explain this to me. Well, that's pretty compelling. A judge looks at that and says, well, it's a pretty good question she asked. And in this particular case, the lawyer did not respond to her, sued her, very costly for the lawyer. Okay. Now, let's say she's beyond that 30-day window from that 1692G notice. Well, you can still do it. And now that debt collector is really struggling. It's like, what do I do? Do I just ignore this? And then if it turns out I've sued after the statute has expired, now that consumer's got a pretty good claim against me. And then when I say as the debt collector, well, I didn't know. It's like, well, actually you were warned. Okay. Or let's take a more typical example. Say it's a credit card debt. And this is what we would typically recommend. If you don't have anything specific, you put this in. You say, look, give me a copy of the contract. Pretty reasonable, right? Well, why do you need the contract? Because I need to know what the terms are. What's the interest rate? What's the late fee? What's the over the limit charge? Okay. Well, what else would be reasonable? How about a statement, the last statement showing a zero balance, and then all the statements after that up until the point that you say that I owe whatever it is, $5,432. Well, why do I need those statements? Because first of all, I need to see the charges, okay? But then I need to see, did you apply the interest rate right? Well, how do I know the interest rate? Remember, that was number one. Give me the contract. Well, what if there are late fees in there? Well, how do I know that those are right? The contract. So see, the contract fits with these monthly statements. You're not asking for the entire life of the credit card. You're saying the last time it was at a zero balance up until the point that you say I owe now, whatever the amount of money is. Well, what else might you ask? You might say, hey, if this is a company that claims to be a debt buyer, give me the purchase agreement showing that you bought the debt. Okay. Now, there can be other things to ask for, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. So here this debt collector comes to you and says, give me money. I want you to pay me money. And you go, well, before I open up my wallet and give you money, here's some questions I have to ask. Just think if they knocked on your door and said, hey, give me money. You'd be like, well, who are you? And show me proof. And you would just ask them questions. Okay. Now, you wouldn't ask them ridiculous questions. Why do you think it's proper for you to collect money when we went off the gold standard in 1971 or whatever it was? See, that's a ridiculous question. That no judge is going to care about that. But ask a specific question. Okay, you may say, hey, you're collecting this emergency room visit, but I've got my Blue Cross bill showing that was paid in full. So can you check this out and tell me why you're collecting? Well, see, that would be very specific. Now, if that debt collector just ignores that, and it turns out there is no bill that Blue Cross did pay it, they're in a world of hurt. And there's this defense called bona fide error. It's basically, hey, I have all these procedures in place, and it's designed to make sure I don't violate the law, but somehow accidentally I violated the law. Well, if the consumer is like a flashing sign saying, hey, guys, look, I think Blue Cross paid this, and you just go, I ignore it, well, as a debt collector, you've sort of gutted your bona fide error defense. Hopefully that makes sense. And so you can ask very, very specific things or more general, but yet they're targeted. And what I mean by that is, give me a copy of the contract. It could be a credit card, it could be a medical debt, it could be an auto loan, whatever it is. That's very reasonable. I want the contract to see the terms. And then I want to see those monthly statements, okay, if it's something where you get monthly statements. And, if it's a debt buyer, hey, show me the purchase agreement. Now, what if the debt collector won't give this to you? Well, you may then follow up with another request for information. Hey, I appreciate that you gave me one monthly statement, but it starts at $3,897. What about before then? Or, it shows an over the limit fee and a late fee, but you never gave me the contract showing what those charges are. What is the allowable amount? What is the interest rate? Okay. And so you can follow up, and it's sort of like tennis, back and forth over the net. And you're just responding back to these guys saying, give me information. Again, like somebody knocking on your door saying, hey, give me money. Say, well, I need some information. Well, they might give you a partial answer, and you go, well, I appreciate that partial answer. Give me more information. Okay. Now, you might also say, you know what, this debt collector's not giving me legitimate information that I need. So then you send a refuse to pay letter. So if you back up a video or two, what we've talked about, 3 types of letters. There's just the general dispute letter, which I suggest every letter you send to the debt collector should be a dispute letter. And then number 2 is this request for information. Hey, give me information. Here's what I need. Here's why I need it. Okay. But then the 3rd type is a refuse to pay. And so you might say, I asked you for information. You wouldn't give it to me. So now I refuse to pay this debt. Well, then if a debt collector contacts you after that, almost certainly they violated the law and you can sue them. So we'll talk about refuse to pay in the next video. But just wanted to give you this idea of more information about what is a request for information, or if you want to call it debt validation, debt verification letter. It's all the same thing. It's asking for information, asking for documents from the other side. Now, if you want to go into this in more detail, we're having, as I'm recording this on Wednesday night, tomorrow morning, Thursday morning at 11 Central Time, we're having a master webinar class on really these dispute letters. What are they? When do you use them? How do you combine them? How do you not combine them? What do you do if they're violated? How do you sue? And that type of thing, all under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So you can go to disputemasterclass.com, or there'll be the actual link in the description, and I'll probably put in a comment. And if you're watching this after Thursday at 11, or if you just know you can't make it, still feel free to subscribe, fill out, register for that form, and then you'll get an email with the replay link. If you don't get that, just let me know. You can always go to alabamaconsumer.com or leave me a comment, and we'll make sure and get that to you. Okay, guys, thanks for watching this, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.